G'day guys, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle. This is actually being recorded on a Friday for a change. The last few have been getting made quite a bit in advance, especially last week's one, which was actually made about 5 days earlier because I was on holiday. Well, I'm now back and I'm delighted to say the weather has been absolutely atrocious. We were down in a place, well, Scarborough, which is a little seaside resort down in England. We were down in a caravan for a week and the weather was just beautiful, really nice weather. But unfortunately when we came back home to Scotland, it's just been wind and rain. They're talking about a heat wave. We're going to get a heat wave for, is it 2 months? But you know what, they say that every other week and it never actually happens. So I trust you've all had a decent week. This week has been quite quiet. This is the second week of my summer holiday. We've not done very much. We've just kind of been chilling out and not doing very much at all, which is good. So I've got back to work on Monday again. So ho hum, such is life. I haven't got a great deal to talk about. I see that every single week, and I usually run on and on and on and on and on. What I've been doing? Have I been doing anything gaming wise? My daughter and I have been playing Left 4 Dead. I did mention that last week. Played Left 4 Dead. I just completed it yesterday, and we're now making inroads into Left 4 Dead 2. Really good fun. Hugely fun. I actually have it on Steam as well on the PC. Got to say, I mean, the graphics on the PC version, you know, absolutely knock the 360 version, you know, out the park. But you know, that's, you know, you can't really compare that. But the 360 one's excellent. Really good fun. You can play split screen, so you know we've had good fun playing that. Anything else? Not really. No, I think Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2 has been the only thing. I think that has been it. Nothing else. So anyway, I'm going to get right on with this. Now I can't, if you've been watching YouTube at all, you couldn't have helped but notice, what's it called? No Man's Sky. A game which it's been released for the PS4. Now oddly it's not coming out in the Xbox One. Is there any reason for that? I did read the review or heard the review and they mentioned it's not coming out for the Xbox One, which is really surprising. Why would a company not do that unless did Sony pay for exclusivity? Is that a right word? Don't think so. It's also coming out for the PC. The PS4 one was released last week, I think it was, and the PC one comes out, is it today? I'm not sure. It's coming out a couple of days after the PS4. I've watched a few videos of it getting played. My big mate Chris Shank, he's been doing a live stream of the game over the last couple of days. I've been watching that. I mean, first impressions is it looks stunning. The graphics, it's got a kind of weirdy arty watercolory look to it. It's quite unlike anything I've really seen before. I mean, the graphics just look phenomenal. Now, being a bit of a retro head, I tend not to pay too much attention to modern games. You know, I mean, I hadn't even heard of the game. I think I may have heard the title being mentioned, you know, on social media, but I certainly wasn't aware of the game at all until just last week. And from what I gather, the hype machine went into overdrive with this game. Now, apparently the company that were making it were putting out sort of quite regular updates. I think they also previewed it in one of the big, you know, electronic video game shows as well. But social media itself has hyped the game beyond belief, and like a lot of hype, it tends to make expectation way greater than the reality, and I think that's been the case with this game. It's not to say that, it's not to say that it's a bad game. From what I've gathered, I mean, I've read multiple reviews and comments about it. Some people are saying it's boring, and you know, watching Chris playing the game, my impression of the game from what I've seen, I mean, I watched Chris playing it for about an hour. He did a big 6-hour live stream a couple of days ago. It looks really nice, but what one of the comments I made to Chris was, it looks to me like it's a beta game. It's like this is the game engine we're using. We've still to finish it. We've still to put the baddies in. It just seemed to be that you wandered about, not doing very much. It just seemed to be you've got to collect as in minerals and carbon and that to try and kind of keep yourself alive. Now, one of the reviews I watched in it, what they said was they would prefer it if you could just like explore the landscapes, explore the planets. I mean, apparently there's something outrageous. It's something like 18 trillion planets. It's not infinite. I mean, 18 trillion planets is pretty much infinite. Somebody actually said that if you played every planet for a minute, and you played every single planet for a minute, it would take you something like 25 years to actually visit every single planet. Now that's not counting the time it would take you to fly to it. But yeah, my first impressions of watching Chris playing it was there's not an awful lot to do. Now I don't know whether that's the whole appeal of the game. It's like a kind of Minecraft sandboxy type game. You know, similar to kind of, I was going to say Grand Theft Auto 5. The thing is with Grand Theft Auto 5, there's lots of things going on. You can interact with people, you can interact with objects, you can, you know, drive cars, you can smash up things. This game just seemed to be all you really did was wander about and not do very much. Now Chris did say that in later levels, apparently you get to, I think you get to fight baddies, whatever it is, I'm not too sure, but the thing for me, I mean, but I was kind of fighting the urge to run down to my local Asda and buy the game, because that's how I roll. I tend to, I get caught up in the hype of things and I buy a game and then it sits on a shelf and never gets played. The thing for me with that game, it's got 18 trillion planets. It's going to take me 25 years to visit every planet. That would basically mean me playing this game non-stop until I die. That's not going to happen. I've got thousands of other games I want to play. And I think if I did buy the game, it would be one of these ones I said I would probably play it for a couple of hours, for maybe a week or so, and then I would probably stop playing it. It's a kind of game I think you've really got to play religiously and play nothing else to actually get the most from it, and I don't have the time for that. Also, price wise, it's interesting, there's different, like a lot of modern games now, they have various versions of games. There's like the Ultimate Edition, whatever it is, I don't know what the difference is. I think you get different spaceships or something, I'm not too sure. But the cheapest one's about 45 quid. And interestingly, somebody on Chris's live stream, he commented that that was like a lot of money and it's, you know, really a lot of money. But I've always maintained that when you think back to the sort of like the mid, you know, the mid sort of 80s, mid 90s, for a SNES game, you know, in the sort of in the early 90s, you could pay 40, you're paying 45 quid for a cartridge. If you wanted to get it an import, you were paying 80, 90 pounds. I know quite a few people, you know, bought Street Fighter 2 on import and it cost them 80 quid. But even 45 quid, 45 pounds back in 1990, it was a phenomenal amount of money. I mean, it was probably, I don't know, if I was to compare my sort of my wages then with what I get now, I mean, 45 quid was probably, it was probably about a third of my wages, weekly wage. You know, I don't know what I earned back in 1990. Maybe I earned 150 quid a week. I don't know what I earned, but you know, it's far less now than it was then. So 45 quid now is pretty much peanuts compared to what it was back in the day. I mean, you think of what you're getting for your money. You know, you're getting this infinite game compared to like some of the cartridges you got for the SNES. It was a real shitty kind of, you know, platformer type game. So to compare, to say 45 quid is a lot, you know, for what you're getting, I don't think it's entirely true. I think the problem I've got now is with iPads and, you know, downloadable games on smartphones, you get games for either 99 pence, and that's regarded as expensive, or we expect to get games for free. You know, you get your in-app purchases. So, you know, these kind of mobile devices have changed our perception of what we deem to be good value for video games. We expect games for either free or for not very much money. So when a game comes out for 45 quid, people jump up and down and say that's ridiculous, it's a lot of money, but look at what you're getting, and I think it's pretty damn good value for money. So, right, that was No Man's Sky. So yeah, am I going to buy it? No, I'm not. It might be a game I'll pick up for, I'll wait for it to come down in price and maybe get it for a tenner or something, but just to see what the fuss is about. But I'm certainly not going to go and buy it full price because I know I'm simply not going to play it. So yeah, that's that. But right, the other thing, when I was on holiday in the caravan, I took along my iPad and I was reading some PDF magazines, and one of them I was reading is a magazine which was released, I think it was mid-80s. In fact, yeah, it was probably mid-80s, I'm guessing early 80s, maybe 82, 83, and it was called The Big K. It was a multi-format magazine similar to Computer and Video Games. It didn't last very long. I remember buying a couple of episodes. I remember buying a couple of, what do you call it, a couple of issues, that's the word. I bought a couple of issues of it and I wasn't that impressed with it. But I was reading issue 1 last week, and I came across an article which is something I was never aware of it even existing, and I don't think many people knew it existed. And it is, I don't know if you can see that, it is called the Supercharger system, and it's for the Atari 2600. I'm going to just read out what it says here. The humble Atari VCS, you can find them in thousands of homes across the country, except mine's because mom and dad wouldn't buy one. But anyway, some remain avidly used, but many now sit neglected, having become little more than an affectionately remembered relic from game-playing days gone by. Dearie me, this was only about 3 years after it disappeared. However, an astonishing new add-on has arrived that could well prove the salvation of the trusty 2600. It's called the Starpath Supercharger. I love the name, you just wouldn't get something like that nowadays. And it quite literally transforms your VCS into a state-of-the-art games machine. The charger is in fact a large capacity storage device which plugs into the Atari-like an overly plump ROM cartridge. Games stored on standard audio cassette can then be loaded into it, the usual micro manner via an attached cable jack. The system is simplicity itself, but the results are astonishing. The charger expands the onboard RAM of the VCS almost 50-fold, from 128 to 6,272 bytes. This extra memory considerably extends its graphic capabilities. Price £19.95, less than a standard cartridge. Included with the Supercharger is a free game, Phaser Patrol, a sort of Star Raiders variant in which you scud through the galaxy, routing out dastardly Dracons. All you need to get yourself spaceborne is a domestic cassette recorder or personal hi-fi. This is so 80s. Having found one, simply insert the Supercharger into the cartridge slot of the VCS as you would a normal game cartridge, and plug the attached cable jack into the ear socket of your cassette player. To show that it is ready to take a game, the Atari will then cause the message rewind, press tape, blah 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 blah. An impressive collection of Starpath supercharged tapes is already available, and there are more waiting in the wings. The quality is almost comparable with the ColecoVision game system, and many boast multi-load capability. This is a feature unique to the Supercharger, which enables you to play not so much variations on a theme, blah 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 blah. The games retail for $9.95. Now they go on to list a few games. There's one called Rabbit Transit, Survival Island, Frogger, Killer Satellites. So yeah, that is it there. The Supercharger, I have never ever heard of that. I'll put, in fact, you know what I'll do? I'll put a wee link, not a link, I shall let you see the, I'll put a wee link either there or there to the, not I'll put a link, I'll actually put a picture of the article to this. But I had never ever heard of that. Has anybody heard of this before? it's not something I have ever heard of until I saw this advert. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wee Google and see if I can find any information on this. Playing a cassette game on your Atari 2600. I'm guessing it never really took off, because I think we would have probably heard of it by now. So yeah, that's quite an interesting one. The Supercharger, or to give it its full title, where does it say? It's the Starpath Supercharger. Excellent. Yeah, that is that. Okay, right. Right, before I start the questions, there's a programme which I have been watching the last 3 or 4 days. It's a Netflix special. You know, you can only get it if you're actually subscribed to Netflix, and it is called Stranger Things. Now, I'm not going to go and give you any spoilers, but it's a series. I think it's 8 episodes, and it is set in the 80s, the early 1980s, and I can only describe it as a mix of E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Goonies. That is basically it. It is a combination of all these 3 programmes. I'm absolutely hooked. I mean, I've watched 6 episodes. I've got another 2 to watch, and then I'll be gutted when it finishes. It is amazing. It's the guys that is it the Duffy brothers or something they're called. The guys that make it, they're 2 brothers. It's quite clear that they are massive fans of the 80s. You know, there's a lot of nods to things that went on. The music's set in the 80s. The styles. I mean, even the wee actors. There's 3 main wee kids that take part in it. Brilliant, really. I mean, you couldn't have picked better actors for it. You know, it's when you watch it, it's kind of hard to actually imagine that this was made like last year or this year. You know, when you watch it, you really feel you're watching something from the 1980s. But it's fantastic. It's although it's got like kids in it, obviously there's adults as well. There's a lot of jump scares in it as well. Really good. If you're into sort of like your 80s nostalgia type thing, even if you're into sort of science fiction. I mean, I'm not an X-Files person. I've never seen a single episode of X-Files. But if you like your sort of like your science fiction type thing, you've got to see it. There was a film. What was it called? There was a film came out last year, the year before, a Stephen King film. No, was it 8mm or something like that? It was set in the 80s. This is kind of similar to that, but the production values are excellent. It's got Winona Ryder in it. She plays a really good part in it. It's got your typical local cop who knows there's something going on, and he does a lot of digging. But I don't want to give any spoilers because it's fantastic. I don't watch TV at all, but I love this. It was my mate that recommended it to me, and I said I've watched the first 6 episodes, and it's brilliant. It's really good fun. It's the kind of thing you could quite easily watch all 8 episodes one after another, you know, in a sort of a binge type thing. But I've deliberately put off doing that, you know, because I want to kind of look forward to watching the next one. So I'll probably watch one later on today. But Stranger Things, if you've got Netflix, I strongly suggest you go and check it out. The fact that if you're watching this video, then you're always into 80s and old games and old Scottish guys talking pish, you'll love it. Stranger Things, go and check it out. So yeah. Right, I've just got a few questions. Kev down the rabbit hole. Kev, I actually met up with Kev a few weeks ago when him and his wife were across in Scotland and England for about a month, I think it was. It was like the epic holiday. I met Kev in Glasgow, had a great time. I noticed Kev did put up a video that him and I made a couple of days ago, and I'd had a few Tia Marias by that point, and I think I completely took over the video, which was completely wrong. But you know what? That's alcohol for you. It doesn't take much to get me talking about stuff. But anyway, Kev is now safely back in Canada, I'm glad to say, and Kev always has a question for me. So here we go. For the Friday Waffle, hello Alan. Yes, I'm back from a month-long UK visit and ready to start asking you questions again. First of all, I'd just like to say how nice it was to meet you face to face, and I promise a video of us talking pishful about my channel in the next few days. Well, it is indeed. My wife was impressed by your Samsung phone, so she has just purchased a Samsung Galaxy S7, and we need recommendations on apps to get for it and suggestions for uses from you. I've got to say, Kev, I don't really use my phone for playing games at all, or even, I mean, I just use it as a phone. I mean, I use it to watch, videos, and the camera is fantastic. Well, I know you'll not really see it in this video, but the camera on I've got the S6, it's just a phenomenal camera. Any apps I can recommend? I don't really play games in it as such. I can't say there's any one app that I've got that I would say, oh, you need to get that. The only game I do play in it is Stack Up, I think it's called, where you've got to kind of stack blocks. Can't remember, I'll put a link to it below anyway. But I can't think of anything. I mean, the obvious answer is going to be the Samsung Gear VR, which is up there on the shelf. Now, that has been a purchase that I made, and it's kind of sat largely unused for the last probably 6 months, which ties in with a video that I made last week about stuff that you buy and you never use. Saying that, last night I dug the VR out, and I was using it to update all of the apps. But I was using it, what was I playing? I was playing Left 4 Dead on the PC through the VR thing. And it's easy to forget just how wonderful the VR gear is. It's a phenomenal bit of kit. And for 90 quid, you've absolutely got to get it. Tell D to go and buy it now, Kev. You've absolutely got to get it. That was the reason I bought the Samsung Galaxy, so I could play the VR. And for 80, 90 quid, I don't know what that will be in dollars, you've absolutely got to go and get it. So that is the only app I can really recommend, Kev. There's nothing else I can really think of. I don't really use my phone. There's not any particular apps that I've got that isn't available on anything else. So that's probably not the kind of answer you're looking for, Kev, but that's just the way it is, buddy. Okay, right. Secondly, on a retro gaming topic, now that I am home, I need to kick back and relax with a few good games, and I'm curious if you have any titles that you like to play after you've been away from home for a while. Any games that give you that welcome home feeling? Not really. No, I don't think there's any game that I get back home I think I've got to play that. I mean, no more than I would play it if I was still at home. I mean, I've played, since I've got back, I've played Berserk, I've had a couple of games with Robotron, just the usual favourites of mine, Kev. So there's not any one particular game that I couldn't wait to get stuck into. No, I just really resume where I left off before I went away. I mean, I actually was thinking of taking my my piecade thing, little cabinet thing that I built. I was actually planning to take that on holiday with me last week, and then I thought I might not go down too well with my wife, taking an arcade machine down with me. At the end of the day, the holiday's all about kicking back, relaxing, going out walks and things like that, so I didn't bother. But no, I can't say there's any one particular game, Kev, so apologies about my answers. I've not really given good answers for either of the questions that you've given me, but definitely tell D to go out and buy the Gear VR. Yeah, absolutely must get that. Right, second question is from the ever reliable Mr. Retrohawk. Thank you very much, Squire. He's asking, what is your opinion on CEX starting to sell retro games? Now, I'm guessing when you say retro games, you're not meaning like the current generation, Xbox One, PS4, or even the 360 or PS3, because it's been selling these games, like Wii games and that, for quite a long time, quite a few years. I'm guessing you're talking about earlier systems. Now, when I was in CEX a few weeks ago, buying some of my many games that I've picked up in the last few weeks, the guy said to me, are you interested in the N64? And I says, well, not really. I says, but why are you asking? He says, well, we've got some games for sale in the shop window. So they're obviously looking to kind of open out into older systems. Now, I'm all for that, because the prices that CEX charge is really competitive. It's in most cases I would say it's better than eBay. You don't have the, what do you call it, you don't have the postage and packing, and the prices, they're not greedy, you know. I think what they must do, CX must go on eBay to get a feel for how much games are worth, and then they price them, you know, they price them accordingly. You know, so some of the more collectible games, the rarer games, are that wee bit more pricey in CX, but in comparison to eBay, I would say that's the place to go. I mean, if I'm going to buy any games now, I will definitely go to CX, for sure. As far as them selling it, I mean, I don't know. They always said they're going to have to rely on people bringing games in. Now, I would probably say that most people that own, you know, these older games, the SNES, Mega Drive, Master System, I don't think they're going to take them to CEX to sell them. I certainly wouldn't take any of these older games to CEX, unless of course they're going to give you good prices for them. But it's for CEX to become successful in selling these old systems, they're going to need to have a supply, and that supply I don't think is going to be great. Not in comparison. I mean, like your Xbox 360, there's still tens of thousands of people use their Xbox 360. That's their main game, you know, their main system. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Xbox 360 games, PS3 games in circulation. So these games are, you know, easily available for CEX, but I don't think they're going to get the same supply of the older systems. You know, simply because there are not that many of these games in existence. What games were in existence have now been snapped up by collectors and players like myself. And like I said, I certainly wouldn't take, if I was going to sell any of these older systems, I wouldn't go to the CX with them. But as far as what is my opinion on CX selling the older system games, then I'm all for it, because I've really had my eyes open to just how good CX are when it comes to buying stuff. Their prices are excellent, their service is good. I mean, believe it or not, now is it something ridiculous? Did the guy give me, I'm absolutely positive when I bought the game, it comes with a 2-year guarantee. Now I'm talking about games that I paid 50 pence for, or, you know, £1 for. You're getting a 2-year guarantee with it. That's just ridiculous. It really is. I mean, a couple of games that I got from them, when I got home I found there was no manuals, and I took them back, and they just gave me, you know, they went and, you know, lifted manuals, you know. So I would just say, if you are buying from CX, open the box, check to see if the instructions are inside it, but they swapped them no problem. But I'm all behind that. If CX are wanting to start selling older systems, good on them, I'm all for that. And the second part of Mr. Hawk's questions is, have you had memories of playing a game back in the day and wanted to replay it now, but I've totally forgot what it's called? Absolutely. I don't think there's any game now that applies to. There's been games in the past where I've remembered something about the game, whether it's the game itself, whether it's a sound effect, or, you know, something that happens in the game. I've thought, what game was that? But funnily enough, when I was making They Did What for, no, it wasn't They Did What. I did a video earlier this week, looking at sort of conversions of the real classic arcade games for the Commodore 64, and as I was going through it, there was one game, in fact I'm talking absolute nonsense, I'm talking garbage. It's when I was reading the Big K magazine when I was on holiday last week. I took along my GPD XD handheld, and the Big K magazine I was looking at, I think it was like 1982, 83, I read a review of a game, and what I was doing is I was reading the reviews of some of these old games, and then I was firing up the emulator and playing them, and it was really interesting to be able to read a review of a game from 1983, then play the game back, actually experience it. And one of the games that I loaded, it just took me right back. It took me right back to being 18 years old again. It was kind of like a Buck Rogers type game, but you were this bird type thing. The game itself wasn't particularly good, but having read the review. When I read the review, I didn't realise that was the game I was thinking about. And when I loaded it up, I suddenly remembered, my goodness, I used to play that back in the day. I played that non-stop, and it was wonderful getting transported all the way back to discover a game that I used to play back in the early days. I mean, even now I couldn't even tell you what the name of the game was, but it was great to be able to go back, to be able to experience a game that I played, 30 years ago. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, there has been games in the past where I've kind of remembered what the game was, but I just couldn't remember the name of it. But right now I can't think of anything that I can't remember just now. But yeah, that has definitely happened to me. So anyway, as usual, thank you very much for taking time to give me some questions. Now, before I finish off, I don't have a shout out this week at all. I've not had much a chance to watch many YouTube channels this week, so hopefully I'll get a shout out done next week. But before I go, I've got a special request here. I received a Facebook message last week from a person, and what she said was, sorry for such a late message, we don't know each other. My husband is a massive fan of your Friday Waffle blog and watches it religiously. I was wondering if you could say hello to him on your next blog. His exact words are, he is the man and knows his stuff. Excellent. If this would be possible, his name is Stephen, Scooby Steve. And he loves everything gaming and retro gaming. He's now collecting retro games for a newly purchased Super Nintendo and trying to get me to give him his 30 volume hydrogen peroxide to clean it up. Would be a lovely surprise for him, and absolutely no problem. If not, best wishes, take care. So anyway, that was Victoria that asked me to do that. So here you go, Victoria. Hi to Steve. I believe you live quite close to me, Steve. Is it Linlithgow? I think it is, mate. Well, what you should do is, I go along to a computer club once a month. It's actually next week, but sadly I can't make it. If you're interested in going, get in touch, and you're more than welcome to come along to that. It'd be great to meet you, mate. But as usual, thank you for watching the channel, and I'm glad you enjoy it. It's great when you hear something like this. That's quite interesting to have some. So anyway, listen, thank you very much for the message, Vicky. And thanks to everybody for your continual support. The subs is going up. It kind of gets to 850 then drops below. So I think I'm on 849 as we speak. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to the big 1000 before Christmas. That would be rather excellent. So as usual, guys, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks to all your continued support. Welcome to all the new subscribers. And as usual, thank you very much for watching.